My friend, let me ask you something. What if everything you learned about retiring early is wrong? Not partially wrong, not slightly outdated, wrong in a way that could be costing you years of your life. Most people believe financial independence is a privilege reserved for those who were born lucky, who had wealthy parents, good schools, and the right connections already in place. And life, my friend, is often not fair. That is real. Those who start from the bottom are going to have to run harder, think sharper, and act faster. But here is what nobody tells you. The game has changed, and for the first time in a long while, those willing to adapt have a real advantage over those standing still and waiting for things to get better. In the next few minutes, you are going to understand why the old plan broke down, which new paths are actually working, and what you can start doing this week to change your trajectory. Stay with me until the end, because what comes next might be the most important thing you hear about money this year. There is a movement that was born with a powerful promise. Work with intention, save with discipline, invest with consistency, and one day you will free yourself from work before everyone else. That movement is called FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. For years, it worked exactly as promised. Ordinary people, without inheritances and without extraordinary salaries, managed to stop working in their 40s, their 30s, some even earlier. The formula seemed simple and within reach. Then 2020 arrived, and the world turned upside down. Prices went up and never came back. The housing market became unrecognizable. The job market started showing signs that something structural was shifting. And suddenly, that plan that once seemed solid started cracking at the edges. The mistake most people make today is continuing to follow a map drawn for an economy that no longer exists. It is like using an outdated GPS in a city that rebuilt all its roads. You do move, but you probably end up in the wrong place. And that is where the most important point of this entire conversation begins. The problem is not that financial independence became impossible. The problem is that too many people are chasing a version of it that was designed for a different moment in history. Think about it this way. In 2019, the numbers made sense in a certain way. Today, those same numbers demand a much greater effort to reach the same result. Cumulative inflation is not going away. The cost of housing in many cities has nearly doubled over the last 5 years. And real wage growth, for most people, has been essentially flat during that same period. That means anyone still following the old plan is essentially running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up in the opposite direction. The good news is that recognizing this is the first step toward building a plan that actually works for the world you live in right now. And there is a whole world of possibilities here that most people have simply not discovered yet. Now comes the part that changes everything. The FIRE movement is not dead. It evolved. And within that evolution, new variations emerged that open the door to far more people than before. The first one is called Coast FIRE. The idea is powerful. You work hard in the early years of your adult life, build up a sufficient invested amount, and then let compound interest do the heavy lifting for you over time. Imagine someone who at 32 already has $300,000 invested. If that person simply stops contributing and lets that money grow at an average rate of 7% per year, they arrive at age 60 with nearly $2 million. That means they can, in the meantime, choose less stressful jobs with lower salaries without compromising their retirement. That is Coast FIRE. The idea is not to stop working tomorrow. The idea is to buy freedom of choice. And freedom of choice, my friend, is worth far more than any job promotion. There is a second variation that became very popular and makes particular sense for those who are somewhere in the middle of the journey. It is called Barista FIRE. The name is curious, but the concept is straightforward. You accumulate enough to no longer depend on your main job, but you still work part-time, often to access benefits like health insurance. Think of a 45-year-old with $800,000 invested. They leave their high-pressure tech job and start working part-time somewhere relaxed, earning $25,000 a year. Their annual expenses are $55,000. They withdraw only $30,000 from their investments to cover the rest. That is a withdrawal rate of less than 4%, which makes the plan sustainable for decades. They are not retired in the traditional sense, but they are living life on their own terms. And that distinction changes everything when you stop to think about what you actually want from life. Because there is still a third variation that will surprise you by how well it fits the reality of people who have more than one source of income. That third variation is called flexible FIRE, and it is probably the most adaptable of all for those living in today's real world. The logic here is that you do not need a fixed and perfect number to consider yourself financially independent. You blend an investment portfolio with other income sources like a small business, a rental property, freelance work, or any activity that generates money without consuming you entirely. Imagine someone with $900,000 invested, plus $20,000 a year from a small online business, and another $10,000 from renting part of their home. That person spends $60,000 a year but only needs to pull $30,000 from their investments. That is a withdrawal rate of just 3.3%, extraordinarily safe. What these three variations have in common is something that goes against everything traditional financial culture preaches. You do not have to wait until everything is perfect to start living with more freedom. You can build that freedom in layers, gradually, in the way that makes sense for your life. And that leads us directly to the next piece of this puzzle, one that very few people are taking seriously enough. There is a threat growing on the horizon that is going to impact the income of many people over the next 10 years. And it is not a financial crisis, not a recession, not any dramatic collapse making front-page headlines. It is something happening gradually, but at a speed that is surprising even the experts. Artificial intelligence is transforming the job market at an accelerating pace. Some fields are doing very well. Others are starting to crack. And there is a massive category of professions that could see between 30 and 50% of their workforce replaced once AI is fully integrated into those industries. The question you need to honestly ask yourself right now is, which group are you in? Some people are in low-risk professions like healthcare, education, roles that require genuine human touch. Those people have a larger safety margin for now. But if you are in a medium or high-risk area, waiting is not a strategy. And the difference between who comes out ahead and who gets left behind in this transition is simply who acted before it was too late. The answer to that threat has a name: reskilling. And no, that does not mean dropping everything and going back to school. Reskilling means taking what you already do well and adding new skills that will make you indispensable when AI becomes a standard part of your industry. It could be learning data analysis. It could be understanding how to implement AI tools in your specific field. It could be developing management skills, strategic communication, or anything else that machines still cannot replicate consistently. A practical approach is to think of this as a 12 to 18-month plan. You do not need to learn everything at once, but you need to start. Pick one skill that complements what you already do, dedicate a few months to it, measure the impact, adjust, and move forward. The beauty of this process is that even if AI does not end up taking your job, you will come out of it with a more valuable set of competencies than you had before. You lose nothing by betting on your own development. And in the context of financial independence, increasing your income is one of the most powerful shortcuts that exist. But income alone does not solve the problem. And here is a point that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because it is easier to blame your salary than to look inward. There is an enormous difference between earning money and building wealth. And that difference lives entirely in what you do with every dollar that enters your life. In a world of high inflation and constant uncertainty, managing money carelessly is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. It does not matter how much you pour in, it keeps leaking. What changes the game is intentionality. That means knowing exactly how much comes in, where it goes, and how much is left to be invested. Financial intentionality in practice means a few specific things. First, you prioritize your biggest goals before anything else. You invest first and spend what is left, not the other way around. Second, you automate as much as possible. Automatic transfers to investments, to your emergency fund, to specific accounts for future expenses. The fewer active decisions you need to make about money every month, the fewer chances you have to get it wrong. Third, you review your progress monthly. Think of it like driving a car. You do not stare at the dashboard the whole time, but every now and then you glance over to make sure you are going the right speed and that the tank is not on empty. That periodic check is what separates those who reach their destination from those who end up stuck on the side of the road. And there is still one more strategic adjustment that few people consider, but that can shave years off your journey toward financial independence. One of the most underestimated financial decisions a person can make is where they choose to live. The address where you live has a direct and massive impact on your ability to save, invest, and reach financial freedom. Staying in a high cost of living area without a proportional income is like trying to swim against a strong current. You exhaust yourself twice as much to move half as far. In many cities, a starter home today requires a second income, a massive down payment, or a willingness to live so far from work that you spend hours every day commuting. That time has value too. When the cost of living swallows a huge portion of your income, no matter how much you try to optimize the rest of your budget, the room left to invest simply shrinks. And without consistent investment, financial independence turns into a distant dream instead of a real plan. Sometimes the best financial move you can make is not cutting a small expense. It is changing your zip code. That does not mean you need to move to the middle of nowhere. But it does mean it is worth seriously questioning whether the city where you live today is helping you or holding you back. Some people who move to mid-cost cities free up thousands of dollars a year that were previously going straight to rent or mortgage payments. That money, invested over a decade, has the potential to completely transform the picture of your early retirement. There is no medal for barely surviving in an expensive place. There is no trophy for earning well but saving nothing because the cost of living consumes everything. What exists is a very simple mathematical reality. The more you can invest early, the more time and compound interest work in your favor. And at the end of the day, that is exactly what the FIRE movement has always been, above all else. It is a choice to take control of your own life instead of letting life happen to you. My friend, we have come this far together. And now I need to ask you a few questions. Not rhetorical questions, real questions that deserve real answers. Are you living according to today's economy? Or are you still following a plan made for a world that no longer exists? Do you know exactly where every dollar you earn this month is going? Are you developing skills that will make you more valuable over the next 5 years? Or are you waiting to see what happens? Because here is the truth that might sting a little. Nobody is coming to save you. Financial independence, in any of the forms we discussed today, starts with an individual decision to act before you feel ready, to begin before you have the perfect plan, to take the first step even when you are afraid. Those who were born without advantages are going to have to work harder. That is real and it is unfair. But working harder with the right strategy is infinitely more powerful than working hard with no direction at all. The question is not whether you are going to make it. The question is when you are going to decide to start. If this content shifted something in the way you think, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Not because you need another channel to watch, but because what you learn here will compound, just like your investments do over time. Every new video is a layer of knowledge that builds on the one before it. And while you are here, go deep into the other videos on the channel about wealth building, financial independence, and income strategies. The more you understand about how money truly works, the harder it becomes for the world to catch you off guard. You are more capable than you realize. Each one of us carries battles the other cannot see, challenges that show up in no statistic, obstacles that no finance book mentions. But inside all of that, there is a version of you that can do more, build more, and still help others around you reach their potential too. I believe in that. I believe in you.